Guys, when we first became renovators in 2016, we started with £80,000 in our budget, a whole 3-bedroom house to renovate, and a big decision to make. Should we spend it all on a massive kitchen extension? We'll find out what we did in this video because let's just say it didn't quite go the way we expected. Hi guys, I'm Fee, I'm an interior designer, and if you're new here, I post videos every single week showing you how to renovate your dream home confidently and affordably. We talk about the mistakes to avoid, how to save money on your renovation, and all the nitty-gritty details that will make your design perfect. So click the subscribe button if you're doing a renovation and you'd like some support. In this video, I'll also be filling you in on everything that happened with our £80,000 house extension ideas, but I'll also be sharing the 3 steps I recommend you take before you make any final decisions with the layout of your home. And stick around until the end because I've got an action point for you, which you've probably not thought about yet, which could save you tens of thousands of pounds in mistakes. More on that later. I'll also be giving those of you who have followed Neil and I for a while now an update on our goals with our house and some future ideas. Okay, story time. So back in 2016, we went to view this 1930s semi-detached and instantly saw its potential. Fun fact as well, we are the 2nd ever owners, but the downside is that nothing was touched since the 60s. We got a bit of a shock when we actually rocked up to the house for the viewing and were instantly greeted by this psychedelic hallway, which was obviously strategically left off the listing. And as you can see, it was basically like going back in time. It was cool, but not quite my dream modern country interior that I'd spent months pinning. We even found pre-Second World War newspapers lurking underneath the carpets during the demo, and they used to use them for laying underlay back then. We were so intrigued to find this time capsule with news stories leading up to the Second World War. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. The ground floor layout was our priority to get right first. We realised straight away that the galley kitchen was going to take a lot of work to give us more space to cook and host our soirees. I actually have such fond memories of that old school breakfast hatch. Did you ever have one when you were younger? This one time, Neil and I were having an impassioned debate, and midway through, we just burst out laughing because we realised we were rowing at each other through the hatch.
Here's Johnny.
So we needed this layout to work better for us, and that's when things got really interesting. We hired an architect to help us, but we hired him way too early. I still remember us standing in that little galley kitchen discussing our goals with the architect. The rain was pouring down outside, the apple green walls were this vivid backdrop and felt so far from the country homely kitchen that I was telling him I wanted. Back then, Neil and I were so naive. It was way before I became an interior designer and we had no idea about renovation costs. Our architect's idea was to knock down 2 load-bearing walls, demolish the lean-to and the downstairs toilet, and rebuild it as a new insulated extension with a pitched roof, moving the downstairs toilet and creating a large open-plan kitchen dining space. It didn't seem like that big of a job, right? But we told the architect that we had £80,000 for this whole house and asked him to create his plans for the full property with our budget in mind. But stressful times hit when we spent £3,500 on his fee, poured our heart and soul into the kitchen extension design, and when contractors' quotes started coming in, they estimated it would cost £60,000 alone just for the extension construction. So that excluded the kitchen, appliances, and all the fixtures and fittings. Meanwhile, we were staring at all the red flags in our survey trying to calculate how much all that remedial work would cost us, like central heating installation and roof repairs and asbestos removal. We had such a big decision to make. I'm really curious though, if you were in this situation yourself, what would you have done if you were us? Our options were basically to spend our full budget on the dream kitchen extension, but have no money left to finish any of the rest of the house, or cancel all the extension plans, wave goodbye to the £3,500 that we just spent on architect fees, but finish the full property, including the remedial work, to a fairly decent standard. Well, it pained us, but we realised we had to pull the plug. We wanted to walk around the house and feel proud of the finish, not depressed because all the other rooms were unfurnished and still unrenovated. We also hated the idea of overstretching ourselves financially, so borrowing more just wasn't an option for us. So we just ripped up the architect's plans and it was back to the boardroom for us, this time feeling pretty alone. We lost a lot of time and money and we were just no further forward, still needing to work out what other layout ideas would help to keep us within budget. Obviously this is my line of work now and it's become my bread and butter, and I like to think about those years being really formative, testing and challenging me to do the work that I do now with homeowners. We experienced that mistake and it cost us thousands that could have been spent elsewhere on the renovation, so we had to prevent other renovators like you running into the same issue. If you're renovating a property soon and you'd like support to avoid common mistakes, spread your budget wisely and design your dream home, then take a look at my upcoming online course and community enrolments. I'll leave a link in the description for you. That's where you'll find a step-by-step support and guidance to run your renovation confidently. So how does the house look now? Well, honestly, we are really proud of how it's all turned out despite having to make some big compromises. So instead of the kitchen extension idea, we ended up bringing our costs right down by knocking down only one load-bearing wall and reworking the existing layout. We kept the lean-to and toilet where it was, blocked up the dining room doorway and turned the old dining room into a big country kitchen with a breakfast bar and dining space. We saved a lot of money by working with the existing layout, not adding any footprint, and reducing any demolition needed. Then we renovated the rest of the house with the remaining budget, opting for budget to mid-range materials. We made swaps, like instead of laying LVT floors or solid wood flooring, we laid laminate all throughout, which is a much more budget-friendly option. We also reined in costs by installing column radiators throughout instead of underfloor heating, although this curved bay radiator wasn't budget by any means, but we did save money having radiators in other rooms. We actually have some videos on the channel discussing some of our rooms in more detail so you can get more of a tour. Now you might be wondering years later, do we regret not extending? And I don't think we regret it, although we're definitely aware of the compromises. Like when I work on clients' homes, I love how extensions really improve the rear view of a property and how they increase natural light with the ability to add glazing and roof lights. They're definitely a necessity in some homes to add space and light. But in many ways, Neil and I don't need additional space, and I actually prefer us not having an open plan extension because our utility area and downstairs toilet is acoustically blocked away from the rest of the house. And obviously if I had my time again with the knowledge about design that I have now and a bit more budget, it's actually the finishes that I would do differently, not necessarily the layout. What I've definitely learned over the years working with clients and students is that some level of compromise is just the nature of the beast when you're renovating, especially if your budgets are tight. You end up training your brain to actually think of all the reasons why your home works rather than dwelling in regret, which is really good. But back to you and your goals, because if you're planning an extension project and considering layout ideas at the moment, there are 3 steps that I recommend you take before making any final decisions. The first is do your research to understand what you can afford. Leaving it up to an architect to decide for you is definitely a big mistake which lost us money. You can join our free Survivor's Guide to Renovating for advice on assessing your affordability, and I also show renovators some example costs to help you ballpark your own. I'll leave a link below the video if you want to sign up. The second thing is to ask yourself, what are you doing this work for? What is it that you're trying to gain? And what we've realised is that it's usually a toss-up between having extra footprint or having a beautiful finish throughout. And my advice is to ask yourself which of these 2 is more important to you and then allocate your budget accordingly. Sometimes your budget can't afford you both, it might only be able to stretch to one thing really well, but understanding your reasons will make sure that you're investing in the right way to make you happy. And the third action is to find your community. Like I said earlier, when we first started renovating, we felt really alone. We didn't know anyone who had done a renovation, and we had to really muddle through and make mistakes and learn the slow, expensive way. We wanted to change that by creating the support space that we desperately needed ourselves. And in 2020, a year after our first online course, we opened our Reno Club community, and it's turned into an absolutely thriving space that we're so proud of. Reno Club community members are able to minimise mistakes and regrets because we're all able to learn from one another. We're like a big renovation family. It's an amazing source of feedback and ideas. Now, I promised you at the start of this video that I would share something that could save you a lot of money and mistakes. If you're considering an extension or really any major renovation on your property, then something I encourage you to think about and research in detail is your ceiling price. That's the highest price your property can be sold for given the market. Something like an extension can definitely be about far more than just adding value to a house. Things like more space and livability are a really big factor to consider, but it's always worth going into big investments with your eyes wide open on whether the improvements will allow you to sell for more than what you're putting in. If that's what's important to you, sometimes it's not. To get a quick estimation on your ceiling price, research neighbouring properties that might have done the work that you're about to do and look at their asking or recently sold prices. And this kind of leads me on to Neil and I, where we're at now and what's next for us. You might already know that we've been running our interior design and renovation business officially for 5 years now, helping clients and students with their renovations and managing the odd personal project here and there, which has been so full on but an absolute blast. And we haven't yet hit the ceiling price on our house. It's still got quite a bit of potential, so a loft conversion, new landscaping and a new garage. But it's that age-old question, when is enough enough? And our perfectionism and wanting to finish what we started has definitely started to creep in. But I have to tell you, I am itching to do another personal renovation. Obviously, I love helping clients and students, but we have so many discussions on hikes and when we're having drinks at the pub. For some reason, nature and alcohol really seem to start the discussion off about selling this property and moving on to the next, despite this house having more potential left in it. And I guess our next big decision is, do we leave the outstanding work for the next owners and start an exciting new chapter, or do we keep investing more into this house? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And on that rambling note, I'll leave it there, and I really appreciate you sticking with me until the end, and thanks again for watching. Neil and I love this community we're building here on YouTube and really love hearing from you in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more weekly design chats, and I'll see you next week for the next one. Bye guys!